oh, the UX solutions are not matured enough. We've had account abstraction since years now. I think 2018 was the first time it came. We have all the technical solutions we need. What we need as an industry is more people who have more user empathy, right? The kind of people that were needed maybe a decade back for this industry are not the same. It's not the same personality that we need to also bring. For example, actually, let me rephrase this. Right, the type of personality that was needed to bring and solve really hard challenges about a decade back um, is not the same personality that has extreme user empathy. We need to attract more people into crypto that has this. I think it's a personal issue and not a technical issue to be solved. Number two is distribution. Well, I see a lot of neobanks these days that are popping up. It's the buzzword, right? They kind of go global from day one. They kind of continue to compete and build for the incentive farmers in crypto. I don't think going global is the solution. You need to go local. People have an inherently personal relationship with money. You want to reach out to them. You want to reach out to them in the ways they kind of. You need to understand the local nuances. You need to understand their needs. You need to understand their ways of expression, right? And that's something we need to kind of work on. And there are some parts on the technical side that I do feel like we haven't solved satisfactorily to also go mainstream. Private payments. Right now, all transactions are public. Having this is simply table stakes at this point if you want to go mainstream. Not having this is going to be a problem. Having this is not going to be seen as something magical, at least in the eyes of the user. Number two is we need recovery for users at scale, especially recovery that maintains self-custody in some way. I don't think we've solved this yet properly. Number three is under-collateralized lending. This is a big one. And number four is just simply more protection, more statutory protection for users in case of mishaps. Today we have insurance, but that's generally very expensive and it doesn't cover all the risks that come with on-chain banking. I feel like these things need to be solved before we can have complete mainstream adoption. And this is our attempt to kind of solve it, the Gnosis app. Building the world's first money app the right way. Not just efficient, but also empowering. These are just some sneak peek of the app. We've not yet launched. Beta is coming very, very soon. What are some of the things you're going to see? You're going to see up to 5% cashback. You're going to see world-class UX that cares about the user. You're going to see unmatched yield on savings. It's going to be open. It's going to be composable. There's not going to be any lock-ins. It's going to be local first, global second. And that's not it, right? We care a lot about ownership. You as a user are going to own it. Your account, your money. We're going to have progressive self-custody, giving optionality to users to custody the way they want. We are going to allow, we hope or encourage users to collectively own this money app. You vote on major decisions. You can propose things. We want you to be heard. And number three is simply going to be more rewarding because owners always get more, right? Our goal is to ensure that profits flow to you as the user and not from you, right? We're not just trying to build a back-end upgrade. We want to create this to be an ownership revolution. But that's not all. We've not spoken about the holy grail, right? Why we started crypto in the first place. Creating non-aligned censorship-resistant money. Have we solved it? Well, I'm not sure. Bitcoin kind of did, but not fully, right? And this is our attempt to solve it. We're reimagining money itself with circles. It's an extremely hard problem to solve. We've not yet figured out everything. But with circles, well, we're trying to make money fairer. We're trying to give the right to money creation to all individuals, distributed fairly. Circles is built on or like backed by a trust graph, which could also become a non-invasive identity system. We don't have all the solutions yet, but this is our attempt at solving money, at solving payments, at solving banking, and making it the way it should be. We're launching very soon. To get on the beta, join this waitlist. And if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me on X or Telegram. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I put my there. There you are. Okay.
I was also just told we have Q&A.
Oh yeah. So, do you want me to help you with the Q&A?
Well, are there any questions? Let's ask. You do have one? Sure. Ask me.
Okay. So you're talking about how we can be separated from the banks, okay, the traditional finance. But there's a lot of problems that now crypto has, okay, like private payments or like what happened if something happened, who should I talk with, okay? But what about converging and matching forces with the traditional finance instead of fighting? Do you think that that's a possible way, or
You're asking if we should be converging with traditional finance or fighting them?
yeah?
Yeah, I don't think the way there is to fight or rebel.
I mean, not fighting, but
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. Like, I think there is a way we kind of bring traditional finance on chain, which is happening right now.
yeah.
And we can either let it happen in a way where they just extract or build it for efficiency, or we can get them to come to us and build it for efficiency and the empowerment of users. So this talk kind of talks about how do we kind of wake up and ensure that we're not fighting with them, but we make them understand why we started this and how do we bring that empowerment to users. Yeah, cheers. Yeah.
Hi. How would you comply with some of the laws that local regulators have when you have your local approach with your on-chain wallets?
Well, so right now we're planning to go live in Ireland first. We have some markets that are fairly a lot more like regulated or like markets that are more friendly to, for example, on-chain kind of finance. EU is one of them, and therefore that was kind of the logic to go there. We are working with we also working or building stuff on chain with self-custody minimizes sometimes the requirements of needing a lot more regulation since we're not custodying anyone's money. So that makes it easier. Number two, we have Mika there. The stablecoin issuers that we use on the app are all Mika compliant. So yeah, it's relatively easy, but it's kind of a scale, right? When we want to go to like the real emerging economies, we don't have a lot of regulation solved there fully yet. But it's coming. I think the goal is to not build against them, but the goal is to build it with them in the right way, right? Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions? I think that's it. Well, thank you so much.
Hi. Okay, we're back. We're back. I hope you're having a good time. I can invite you, everyone, if you want to join. In case you don't listen well, you have the headphones there, so you can listen properly, maybe. If you don't want to, it's okay too. But you hear me well? Okay. Perfect, perfect. Well, we continue with this beautiful morning. Now we're hitting with our Argentinian friend also, who is going to talk about a hitchhiker's guide to a trustless automation protocol. But he knows better than me, so please give him a warm applause. Thank you very much. Facu Spagnolo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, hello guys. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here speaking to you today. So, as the MC said, welcome to the Hitchhiker's Guide to a Trustless Automation Protocol. My name is Facu Spagnolo. I've been in this space for a while, since 2017. That was when I started, mainly as a security researcher and blockchain engineer at OpenSiblin. And then I continue contributing to many different projects in the space, like Aragon, Balancer, The Graph. And 4 years ago, we started Mimic with my two co-founders. I'm currently the CTO. And today the idea is to tell you a little bit about the journey that we've been going through these years, which is mainly about automation. But what do we mean when we say automation? Mainly in terms of Web3 or blockchain, we can refer to automation as the concept of interacting with the blockchain without any manual intervention. Let's say we want to execute code in the blockchain when specific conditions are met. This concept sounds kind of simple, but it's not that simple. It's not simple at all. Actually, the story that we're going to tell today is all the things that we've been building around this concept in order to make it happen. So let's begin with our guide. So yeah, Marvin is going to help us today. We'll see some sort of the different tools that we'll put on top of inside the hitchhiker's bag, and we'll see how it gets along the trip. So, but this is extremely important. Something that we don't need to, we need to bear in mind is that all these years, we always wanted to build something that is trustless and decentralized. All the implementations of these different tools and concepts that we've been shipping for the community are mainly decentralized and trustless. So why? Because essentially when you are talking about automation, you're basically talking about also for delegation, like you're delegating the power of executing things to someone else. So it's extremely important to be, if you want to do it, to try to make the goal to make it non-custodial, permissionless, trustless, and much more. So this is a critical concept that we need to bear in mind. So chapter 1, scale transactions. So let's think about this. You're a new Web3 builder in the space, and you simply want to do, you're trying to develop an app for your users, and let's say you want to allow them to buy, from time to time, send a transaction at the end of the month in order to buy ETH or whatever. This simple concept of just, transferring money from one side to the other. If you need to do it, you will probably need to handle like triggering transactions on time, scheduled transactions, which is not an easy thing. You need to start dealing with RPC nodes, nonces, private keys stored somewhere, and much more. So if you don't want to do that, maybe you can go for some decentralized tool like Gelato, Keeper. Maybe there are a few more that you can go with to make it happen. So let's think about that there's some sort of scheduler somewhere that we can reuse in order to send transactions periodically or schedule transactions. Something else that is extremely important when we say about scheduled transactions is that probably you need to handle like custom thresholds. You may not always want to send a transaction. Let's say you want to buy some ETH, but only if it's under, X amount, right? So if you want to do that, then you start having this sort of on-chain conditions. Again, some of these tools that we were referring, if you want to reuse them, something that it's already in the space, like Gelato, Keeper, Defender, stuff like that, maybe you're allowed to query on-chain information to make it happen, but it's not that easy. But let's say there are some sort of things that you can reuse in order to make thresholds possible. Chapter 3 is token prices. So as we were saying, what if we start saying, okay, I want to do it, but only if ETH is below or above, for example, 1,000 USD. So in this case, we just start talking about something a bit more complex. You need to start probably integrating with oracles. Maybe if we're saying about ETH, let's say we can reuse, I don't know, something like Chainlink or a Uniswap pool or something like that, or I don't know, like we can try to find the price on chain somewhere. We could use TWAPs, but again, if we're saying about something super specific or simple, maybe there's a chance we can reuse it. But for example, if we're talking about any token price, let's say, I don't know, a token in Solana in another chain, or some weird token, it's not that easy. I mean, there are not prices for everything on chain. So this thing starts becoming more and more complex. So this is where we started deciding to bring some data sources off-chain to be validated somehow on-chain, because again, we wanted to make it trustless and decentralized. But again, the general concept would be like, we need to query information off-chain, but somehow make it happen on-chain. So it's definitely not simple. As we were saying, what type of operations we may want to support? I don't know, probably the simplest ones or the most interesting ones are DeFi-related stuff. Swapping tokens, bridging tokens, I don't know, investing in some protocols, could be lending, borrowing, whatever. As we were saying, now you probably might be a little bit professional in terms of smart contracts integration. Maybe you will need to understand the different logics of different protocols out there. It's definitely not an easy thing. So this bag of tools starts like getting bigger and bigger, and every time more and more complex. Like, what will happen, for example, if you want to integrate with aggregators? That's another not trivial thing, because many of them work off-chain. So, and if we want to do something more generic, we were saying about just DeFi concepts, but what if we want to do, I don't know, you have some sort of custom protocol that someone is building. So at some point you will probably need to execute what we call arbitrary calls. Like, I want to be able to just execute any type of transaction, not just a swap or just or a breach, like any type of transaction. So this one is even more complex, again, because trying to program each of these is definitely not scalable. It would be ideal to have some sort of standards for custom calls, but it's nothing pretty much in a good situation in this space going on. So having some sort of generic calls that you can reuse in your app or whatever thing you're building is definitely not an easy thing. What if we say, at the beginning we were saying about a scale transaction, something that is triggered by time, but what if we need to trigger something based on, again, a price that goes up or under certain threshold? What if we need to, I don't know, listen to an event in another chain? Could be also not an EVM chain. This again is definitely not easy. You need some sort of a network of probably validators or oracles, something to actually tell you that something is going on in another side, so you can trust it to make it happen. In order to implement arbitrary event triggers, you will probably need some sort of, as I was saying, some cross-chain oracles to make that information be available in different chains. So it's definitely not an easy thing. And this is one of the critical concepts that I mentioned at the beginning, trustless execution. What I mean with trustless execution is basically that delegating the power of executing this that you are trying to automate to someone else. So how do you handle the keys management here? You're probably not willing to expose your keys, so there must be some sort of pattern that you can follow in order to delegate the execution to someone else, but it's still being trustless and non-custodial. So you can feel safe that no one is going to steal your funds or whatever you're trying to do on chain. Storing keys are critical. Probably you heard like tons of hacks these days, especially networks of validators like bridges are being hacked because their keys are stolen somehow. So trying to build something that, again, that you can delegate to execution, the execution to someone else, but without giving the keys, is definitely not an easy thing. So if there's something out there that you can reuse in order to make it happen, that would be extremely easy. The final idea is that the question that we'll always ask to ourselves is there a way that I can write my code so anyone can execute it? Because the easy way is always to make your contracts ownable and make it only owner and that's it, but that's not where you want to go. So let's say there's someone building trustless execution in the space. And finally, the last one is trying to make your whatever you're building updatable. Like, change is the rule. Like, if you want to build what we were saying, you can look at the back, all those features. Imagine like having all those features in smart contracts, and you want to change something, like sending transactions in order to change, I don't know, thresholds, events, triggers, configurations of prices or oracles or these DeFi operations or the generic calls that we were saying about. Every time you need to change those, if you need to, I don't know, deploy a new contract, it's definitely not scalable. So this is probably one of the biggest challenges here, but this is one of the things that we've been thinking of. Okay, so how do we make it possible for developers to build their own stuff, but being allowed to update it at any time while keeping it trustless and decentralized? So as you can see, people think that executing code, just like, sorry, how do you call? Executing code in an automatic way in the chain is a simple thing. But as we were saying, like all of this, if you had to build your own, it's definitely, I mean, it took us like 4 years to go here. So it's not an easy thing. There's not, I didn't find any like complex or project or tool that I can reuse in order to have all these features available for me to build the different automations that we've been shipping for our clients in this space. And this is what we've been doing basically. This is what we call Mimic Protocol. Mimic Protocol is basically an abstraction layer that allows you to implement different programs that will be executed in the blockchain, so you don't have to deal with all the low-level stuff. Mimic Protocol is built on a 3-layer architecture. Let me explain a little bit how does it work. The layer 1 is basically where you program whatever you want to do or execute in the blockchain. Programs are what we call tasks. These tasks are written in any language that can be compiled into WASM. WASM is a deterministic language. So, for example, you can write tasks in assembly script, which is a very similar language to TypeScript that probably everyone knows. And with this, you can implement the different interactions that you want to do. Let's say, I don't know, query a price from an oracle. If that price goes below or above whatever threshold you want to do, then swap tokens and blah, blah, blah. And you can, I mean, that code will be translated into the execution layer. Is where the relayers are basically the ones in charge of picking those tasks, executing them, and producing the output. Since WASM is deterministic, we can verify what the relayers are doing. So there's a network of validators that are basically saying, okay, these guys are doing the job right or not. And the output is extremely important here. The output is basically how you translate the code into transactions. And that's where we are reusing the intent concept here. So we have a settlement layer off-chain. That's the ultimate layer of security, where basically we can check that the output that the relayers are reporting is exactly what the task with the WASM code was producing. And we can finally have the solvers fill in the intents for you. So this is how basically you can turn whatever you're wanted to program in TypeScript into transactions. We're here to push for standard. You can learn more our white paper, our doc site, and our website. There's much more information about how Mimic Protocol works. You will find there examples, guidelines, and tutorials about different use cases that we've been going through. And again, this is what we built in order to be able to deliver for our clients mainly, that we're willing to have some sort of different automation solutions in the space. And we wanted to make it, again, trustless and non-custodial. And this is how we make it we made it possible. Well, thank you for listening, and hope you enjoyed.
Okay. Hey, yes.
Questions?
Questions. Okay. Thank you, Facu. You were so good.
Thank you.
You're tired already?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's end of the week.
End of the week, yes, I know. I think we're all always, everyone kind of tired, but we put energy. This is the morning. This is a beautiful day that we're having for this closing day. And we wonder, do you have questions that you want to ask Facu? No. Yeah, please. Do you have the mic?
Is there any application you demo with a Mimic? You have any demo?
Yes. Not sure about applications like other projects building on top of Mimic, but all the things that we've been doing are open sourced and seriously public. The protocol, we opened it in Cannes, April this year, to make it available for others to build on top. So it's kind of an early phase, this idea of building a community. But yeah, if you want to try it out, I mean, it's open, it's live, it's deployed on mainly all the L2s. So yeah, feel free to try it out. I mean, you will find in the docs many tutorials and examples that are super easy to follow. I invite you to do it. It's really great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your question. Someone else wants to ask Facu something? No? Okay, perfect. Well, Facu, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Likewise.
Do you enjoy it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a very nice event, and thank you for having me here. Yeah. It's a pleasure.
I'm really grateful. So we're having 5 minutes rest, and then we keep going. Please give Facu an applause, because he did great. He's building. Okay. Thank you, Facu.
Thank you very much.
See you in 5. Okay, welcome back. You're in the World's Fair stage. My name is Flor. If there is someone new in this scenario with us, and I'm so glad to join you. I'm so glad that you are here with us. And we've been talking a lot of things. This week was a big week. I hope you are really enjoying it. And we are going with the next chat. I remind you, if you want to listen better, you have headphones there. So it's your choice, okay? This is a lovely day, as we mentioned. So please, I ask you to explore. I ask you to think. I ask you to share with people and share knowledge. So that's why we're here. We are here to connect, to share ideas, and we're presenting the next speaker of the day, the third of this stage, which he's talking about making DeFi CEX. Why? Do I say correct?
Sexy.
Sexy. Perfect. Perfect. Please. I need my phone. Sorry. That can happen. That can happen. I'm a human with limitless memory. So, but I want to say your name properly. So please give an applause to Paul Unterberg. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
I hope you have a great time here.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. Hope Devconnect is doing well. I think we've learned a lot this last week. We've heard a lot about different topics. And I'm here to talk about something that at last Devconnect was not very popular as I was mentioning it to people. So I come from a centralized exchange. Uphold is a global exchange. We have around 16 million users, process a couple $1 billion of transactions a month, and most of our customers are either consumers or banks. So what I'm going to talk to you about a little bit is how we are able to be compliant and create solutions that allow DeFi through a centralized exchange. So I always like to open with this quote. Paul Volcker was the head of the Federal Reserve. He has been an outspoken proponent of centralized banking, and for many people in the crypto community, he is enemy number one. What he said about his own industry is they are not innovative. If you look at this quote, the last useful thing that banks invented in the last 20 years was the ATM. We heard earlier today from Gnosis how old some of this technology is. When we send money, it is built on layers and layers of tech that is decades and decades old. When a bank gets your balance updated, it is really a file transfer with a CSV document. And you hope that that file transfer is secure, but there's very little assurance that that is actually happening. So there are a lot of reasons why crypto was created to make this system a lot more efficient. The first stage for most people is a centralized exchange. And the reason why most people need a centralized exchange is because they are not used to all of the primitives, all of the things that need to happen when interacting with decentralized exchanges or a decentralized service altogether. So you have your wallet. You have your wallets. Your wallets need private keys. You have signing ceremonies. You have all kinds of security. Ultimately, most people do not want to worry about having all of that security. They don't want to manage all of that risk that, hey, one day all their money could go away. So a centralized exchange makes that easy, right? We provide on and off ramps. We allow people to connect to the existing user experience that they have and easily get fiat into crypto. Once their fiat is in crypto, centralized exchanges then have a duty to take that and be compliant with all of the regulations. I'll talk about that in the next slide. But there are a lot of things a centralized exchange needs to do to allow somebody to deploy their capital. And ultimately, this means that users today can get lower volatility. Because that volatility is controlled, we are only allowing certain assets listed. We are setting things like limit orders. We allow users to have complex trades. Most of our volume today comes from two sources, either our consumer exchange or our aggregated exchange. So Uphold's a little bit different. We don't have just one order book. We scan the market every 14 milliseconds. We build a real-time order book across CeFi and DeFi venues. So we'll look at something like Uniswap. We'll compare that with MEXC. We'll look at something like Kraken. We'll aggregate all of that data together, and we'll give users an all-in price for an asset that allows them to say, I don't have slippage. If I want to buy $1 million of bonk, we're able to quote them a price instead of them having to shop around for liquidity. And most exchanges only have either their order book or a market maker that stands behind their order book that they can go to fulfill that liquidity if a user wants that. So we can lower the volatility, we can lower the slippage. Now, a lot of our volume today actually is behind the scenes, and it's providing liquidity for other trading partners. We have brokerage firms, we have banks, we have big neobanks who use our APIs and use our systems to source the liquidity that they need. But when you work with different types of banks, you have the problem of what crypto was initially created to solve, which is the road to get to where you want to go is tied with tolls. So if you're used to working with your bank, say, hey, I want to go use an ATM. I'm from California. I use my ATM card here in Buenos Aires. The bank says, oh, I will charge you a fee for the convenience of doing that. That fee is probably several steps into the supply chain. So the road to where you want to go can be very, very expensive on traditional rails. And again, most of this is because those rails are fragmented. All of these little nodes that you have to connect to, whether it's the ACH network, the merchant bank, the acquiring bank, the settlement layer, all of those people have their systems, their processes, their committees that allow them to operate, but they also need to pay for all of that. So that's why it becomes incredibly expensive to do some of these things that should be quite simple. Let's talk DeFi. So DeFi takes all of these layers and flattens them. You no longer need to have all of these intermediaries. You no longer need to have all of these different stakeholders in between the user and the transaction they want to perform. Most of this can happen atomically. Most of this can happen programmatically. So you can do a swap from ETH to Solana super quickly, all on-chain, all trustless. But, and this is the big but, there are multiple laws that govern how you can actually interact with your money, depending on where you are. I live in the US. In the US, things are much, much different this year than they have been in the past. I used to work at PayPal. I launched PayPal stablecoin, and I had so much trouble getting that product out there. I had a regulator tell me that this stablecoin that was going to have $1 billion market cap was a systemic risk to the financial system. How could $1 billion be a systemic risk to a $32 trillion financial system? It doesn't really make sense. But from their point of view, if something goes wrong, it's them on the line. It's the person who said yes that is in trouble, and they're the ones who go to jail or who get in the media. It's not going to be the stablecoin issuer. So the incentives are really aligned for them to say, well, wait a minute, this is risky, this will take time, we need to think about this. And then you have a whole set of other laws that are on the books to prevent bad guys from being able to do bad things with the financial system. So you have a set of things like the Bank Secrecy Act. The Bank Secrecy Act prevents what you can and can't do with your money by law. You have the USA Patriot Act. The USA Patriot Act says we need to collect all of this identity information. You need to know who your customers are, and the more risky those customers are, the more liable you might be for doing business with them. So again, the incentive structure and the risks don't necessarily align to the goals of what the bank's trying to do. And that makes it really, really hard when you go to a regulator and you say, we want to offer a decentralized protocol where there are counterparties on one end that you may not know, but it allows your customers or your constituents, your users, to get something really, really valuable that they can't get today. But they go right back to the airport security line. How do I know what's inside that swap? How do I know who's providing that liquidity? Is it a bad guy from North Korea who's on the other side who is laundering certain money? How can you be assured of that? And it makes it really hard then to be both a centralized exchange and embed DeFi primitives into what you're doing. So what do we do about it? And this is where exchanges have taken different routes. There's one way where the exchange, and this is something that Kraken, for instance, is doing, the exchange will spawn multiple virtual wallets using technologies like Privy or Magic, and they will basically create a wallet for every DeFi interaction that user wants to do. Then they can go to the regulators and say, hey, this is the same thing as the user installing MetaMask or Phantom on their desktop. I'm just programmatically making it happen for them. That way, the regulator is in a kind of bind. They're saying, OK, well, I get that this is a user permissive activity, but I see what you're trying to do, how you're trying to embed this. And this is how they're launching a lot of the new features on the exchange. Then there's the other mechanism, which is what I call the switchboard, the operator. So this is how Uphold has chosen to launch a lot of our DeFi products. We're here because we just integrated a borrow and lending protocol. But the way that I've told this to regulators, and I've taken this to them and said, look, this is the exact same thing that a user can do on their own. All we're doing is orchestrating that. We are effectively the operator taking their call, and they say, I want to borrow, or I want to lend, or I want to take part in this on-chain activity, and we are making that happen for them. Now, in the back end, of course, there is account abstraction. There are wallets that manage this for those users, and we have a whole reconciliation process that allows us to track those balances. It also has to be super secure. So that's where we can use on-chain technologies, whether that's something like Hypernative, whether that's something like Blockade, to manage all of these different wallets and see the balances and see what's going on so that we can deploy users' funds. But this also has some complications with a centralized exchange, because most DeFi protocols have their own pricing oracles. So as an exchange, we're building an order book. We have the depth of the market. We know that this asset can buy at this price, can sell at that price. Those prices may be different than what you see from your Chainlink feed or your Pyth feed. So all of that becomes a UX problem. That's where our team has to say, how do we get a user to understand once their assets move from the centralized custodial part of the exchange to the DeFi section, your prices might change. And that's something that we're going to learn. We're going to see how users react to that. I know that when you put in a limit order, a lot of times users are confused. They're like, wait a minute, I thought the price of this, because I saw it on CoinMarketCap, hit that thing. Well, maybe one trade for one small amount of that token traded for that price, and it sent it to CoinMarketCap. But that's not necessarily the bid or the ask in that market. So this is something that we'll learn. This is something that hopefully we can come back next year to Devconnect and talk about how we solve for this difference in Oracle pricing compared to an order book pricing. But this grand switchboard allows us to really create and connect the DeFi primitives into our exchange. So where are we going with this? How can we actually build on this? Well, the infrastructure that we're supporting now is available to banks and financial companies, to fintechs, to startups, to build through that APIs. And in that, we are hoping to support the ecosystem of developers who want to actually create on this, but don't need to go on chain, don't need to worry about all of the hard stuff on key management, on setting up these virtual wallets, on setting up these orchestration layers. So we are providing that service through the APIs. And what's happening? we're getting a lot of fintech companies who are coming to us and saying, hey, wait a minute. Right now, if I want to add financing to the products that I sell, I need to go to a bank, I need to arrange for a loan, I need to pay fees for that. What if instead of doing that, I take some amount of money that I would have spent on those fees, I put it in a DeFi protocol, and I allow my users to take out a loan? That means that their cash flow is more efficiently deployed through a DeFi protocol. And you look at these large buy now, pay later companies, for instance, the Klarnas of the world, they spend a lot of money on setting up those relationships that takes away from the cash flow, takes away from the things that they want to give to their users. So I believe that DeFi integrated with these companies can provide the best of both worlds. It's not going to be easy. There's going to be a lot of challenges. And we're going to have to work to educate regulators, to get them to come along and understand that what we are building here is better for everybody. But I think we can get there. I think we can get to a pretty happy place. And the infrastructure that you are all building today is helping to forward that vision where it could be all on chain on the back end and nobody would ever know. It's just, I'm buying a product, I'm taking a loan, I'm getting a better interest rate. That's all I wanted to talk to you about. It's I'm very excited for what I've learned about this week, what you all are working on. Keep building, and thank you. I think we'll do Q&A if there's any questions.
Yes, hey, I'm going to help you with the Q&A. It was so interesting. Thank you all for listening to us. Do you have some questions for this incredible? Yeah, there. Do you have the mic? Can you help me? I don't know.
Hi, it was a great talk. Now, banks have become very dependent on these the percentages they make from holding people's capital and these things. Do you have any ideas how you might begin to propose to them that this would work out for them better in the midterm?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? If you think about what a bank does, a bank makes money on the difference between what they pay out in deposits and what they get back for issuing loans. So if you go to a bank and you say, hey, I can make it so you can make less money, they're not going to be very happy with that. But there are a few things that even banks will like. One, they can open the pool of capital that is available to borrow, because banks actually have a cost, they call it the cost of capital, in order to figure out where to place their money. Two, even if rates are more transparent and ultimately lower, there are more people who are now eligible to start to take out these loans and to start to work with the banks. So my pitch to them is always, hey, the pie is growing. You can now give a loan to somebody who you never could give a loan to before, and that can help you both increase your customer base, but also your operational efficiency, because the cost of capital is lower. They're contributing to these pools. One other thing on that, we are partnering with a bank in the US to do tokenized deposits. And tokenized deposits, I think, are another evolution of where stablecoins can go. Because now, in a stablecoin world, you have a finite capacity, right? Those stablecoins need to have a backing, those stablecoins need to have a reserve, and you need to basically put $1 in to get $1 out for a stablecoin. Banks, through tokenized deposits, can create money. So that money can then be lent out on-chain. The bank we're working with is using a version of Ethereum to actually do this. So very excited to see how tokenized deposits can make it even more compelling for banks, offer them even better unit economics as they roll this out.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions and good reply that you did. It was so interesting. Do you think that the future is all tokenized?
Yes. I think every asset will be tokenized. I think everything will move on chain. And maybe it may take a while to get there, but it will happen.
How many years?
Oh, it's a hard one. I've been wrong before on how long. If you had asked me in 2011 when I started playing with Bitcoin, I would have said 10 years. If you ask me now, I'll probably say 10 years.
Okay.
But it is making a lot of progress. And
Post quantum?
yeah.
Yes.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. I think what we've seen in the US is incredibly exciting because now we have an entire country that's all in on crypto. And that gives you a lot of permission to build. That's a lot like the early days, right? Where there was not a lot of people who are saying, no, you can't do that. There's a lot of builders, people in this room who are saying, wait, how can we do something better? And that environment really helps.
Yeah, you see, it happens in these kind of spaces. Nobody says, okay, that's it, and I just like let things like that. They're always like thinking about what's next, what's changing.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Okay, there is some other questions? Nope.
All right. Oh,
Perfect. I like you to encourage, like, yes, this is a space to ask.
Hey, so for example, nowadays we see a lot of new primitives like Aave vaults or Morpho vaults. When do you think that we'll get like, and especially a lot of conversations about curation? I think that mostly it's been like crypto native hedge funds and crypto native people doing those kinds of curation. When do you think we'll have like a Goldman Sachs Aave vault or a Goldman Sachs Lido vault? Because at the end of the day, this is the kind of intermediation that they are used to in a different context, and it seems like in crypto we are creating the primitives that kind of create this kind of middlemen that provide value by their expertise. And I would like to understand your take on when we can see this kind of adoption, and even if the regulations might look at this, because I can understand there might be a regulatory risk on that.
yeah. I think having investment banks be really big on chain will absolutely happen. I was on a panel with people from JP Morgan and people from Bank of America, and both of them were saying they are looking at this, they are building on-chain primitives. Now again, they're looking at slowly getting on-chain. So most of them say, oh, we want a permission blockchain, we want something that's all closed off. I think that's probably where they'll start to look. But ultimately, if that's where they're stuck on, they'll fail, right? We all know that open permissionless systems always win. It's not a question of like if, it's a question of when. So ultimately, the banks will build those capabilities. They'll have their vaults, they'll have their on-chain participation, and they'll have to do it because otherwise Aave will kill them, right? Their business will need to adapt or they'll die. And most likely, they'll use Aave, they'll use Morpho, they'll use these vaults because they're battle tested, because they're tried and true.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your questions. You know, you said reminds me, you know, the founder of Google, Larry Page, put a giant dinosaur in the middle of their offices. You know why? Because he wanted to, all of the employees saw the dinosaur and remember that no matter how big you are, if you don't adapt to the circumstances, you will die.
That's
so
right.
I think that what you say like is applied to this concept too, right?
Yes, exactly. We are here to create change, right? That is why we are all here learning, building together. That change maybe ripples, but it's going to topple all the dominoes, right? And in the end, I don't want to necessarily kill anything.
No, please.
I want them to be better.
want to be
I want them to
alive.
be more efficient.
Yes.
And I want people to have more control over their finances and their money.
Yes.
And I'm happy that we're getting closer to that world.
Yes, and also I think that all of this technology are helping us as humans to be more human
That's
than
right.
before.
That's right. Yes, it's connectivity, right? It is building networks, and that's what allows us to be social animals.
Yes, and also if we have more technology that helps us during the day today, we can have more time to spend with our friends, family, with ourselves.
Yes, I can't wait for my AI bots to manage all of my calendars, all of my schedules, and spend more time with my friends, explore Buenos Aires.
Yes, I want my clone and my AI agent, so I will like necessarily be present everywhere.
Yes, exactly.
If I can, I do.
Yeah.
Because I like it. I like to stay here with you. I like this environment. But if I don't want to, Go, my agent.
This is the best time to be alive.
Yes. Are you happy to be alive too, like us? Yes. 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 Life is wonderful. Okay. I don't know if there's other questions. Okay. Perfect. We
Thank
had a
you.
really good conversation. Please applause. Okay, well, I hope you're having a good time here. This is just like the middle of this morning, and we have a lot of speakers left that we're going to have the pleasure to hear. But now we're taking like 4 or 5 minutes before they arrive, and then we continue, okay? Thank you very, very much. welcome. Welcome back. How are you tonight, today? Oh my God, oh my God. Well, I invite you everyone if you want to join us. We're in the World's Fair stage with a lot of good information, great speakers, and also feel about learning, which is what we love. And here, the most exciting part about being in this momentum in Argentina, it's that it's so fast how the things are going from white papers to worldwide. There's people from all around the world here in Buenos Aires, Argentina, in this 2025 Ethereum Devconnect. And I'm so glad that you are all here. There's like the streets full about talking about crypto. There's this massive energy, ideas flowing. And, you know, for me, it's kind of an honor that everyone is here with the same purpose about building, the same purpose about changing things, because that's why we're here too, changing. So, in this change, there's some gaps that we still have, and we're kind of figuring it out, yeah? Because that's the point, like figuring it out and how change can be efficient, how change can be an actual change that really helps people. What the people need, what's the massive adoption requires to have a really big change. And we're all here with this energy we're making this, but there's some steps that we need to keep pushing, you know? So we're going to present the next speaker. Hi everyone, I see some faces I recognize, so I'm really happy. And the next talk, we're going to talk about the missing piece about synchronous order books, which is an interesting thing. I don't know a lot of that, so I'm going to listen to you closely. And I invite you to the stage. Please give him an applause to Sam Baternally. Woo! Welcome.
Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoy it.
Brilliant. Thank you for the introduction. Awesome. So I'm Sam Batnally. I'm the founder of Rise. We're a very high-performant EVM layer 2. And I'm here to talk about order books today and why I think they're so important. So this is Felipe. Felipe is my friend. Felipe believes in DeFi. He likes that it's likes the self-custody of DeFi, loves that it's transparent, you have accessibility. He's a full believer. However, he dislikes the bad price execution, dislikes the inconvenience of DeFi. So ultimately, he finds himself continuing to use centralized exchanges. And so what my talk about is what we need to do to make Felipe's life not suck on-chain and actually onboard these marginal users that we should really already have on board by now. So first of all, I want to start with the premise and my strong belief that DeFi is incredible. And there's two particular reasons that really resonate with me. The first is accessibility. And honestly, I have my career to thank for this. I come from a background in embedded systems and engineering, started out as an electronics engineer of all things, always had an interest in finance, but saw no clear avenue or pathway for me to kind of enter that space. I didn't see the opportunities for me. However, when DeFi came along, 2021, through some experiments with a friend, one thing led to another over a period of a few months, and I launched a Vault protocol on chain called RoboVault. Me and my friend knew no one in the space, deployed some code, and then it did surprisingly well. Within about 2 months, we had over $20 million of deposits in the vault. It was generating healthy revenues. It kind of blew me away. And then the rest is history. I expect to spend the rest of my career in DeFi. And then the next thing is that I'm really excited about is disintermediation of TradFi. So TradFi systems today actually come back from a time when everything was done in paper. And there were these physical brick and mortar buildings for clearinghouses, brokerages, exchanges, where people did this in paper. It has progressed a lot. It's now essentially the same thing on AWS services, but there's no need for these separate entities anymore. And DeFi has the potential to essentially flatten this into one synchronous shared state, which has the benefit of reducing the risk. You don't have this massive counterparty risk of someone hasn't reported that they're bankrupt yet, so the exchange has exposure, for instance. So massive opportunity to really disrupt TradFi. And these are probably the two things: the openness and accessibility, just leveling the playing field, and the disruption potential for TradFi. So the DeFi dream: open, permissionless, global financial system. That's what we're here for. That's what we want to build. We want to build composable money Legos instead of these siloed banks where it's very difficult to access. And we want to disintermediate the current traditional financial rails. But unfortunately, the reality today is that it's still very, very niche. And it caters to speculators and early adopters, or innovators, sorry. So people that are just excited about the tech, or people that are just speculating. The adoption is dominated predominantly by centralized exchanges, and on-chain volume is relatively low, particularly in comparison to traditional finance. And so the chart that I look at extremely closely as a bit of a litmus test for how well DeFi is progressing is the on-chain DEX volume versus the centralized exchange spot volume. And what we see here is a period of about 6 years. And we can see there is a steady incline over time, and this is a success. This is something worth celebrating. However, what you see is that it's slower than I think we would have anticipated looking back 5 years ago. And one thing to notice is even over the past 12 months, it's essentially been flat, that we haven't been able to make ground on-chain relative to the total crypto trading market, for spot that is. And so where does that put us in the scheme of things? So this is a pretty generic adoption curve, innovation adoption curve. So we have DeFi at the far end of the spectrum. About 27, 28 million people globally use DeFi. I was shocked at how small this is. So about 0.3% of the total population, about 4% of adults. So we're very much in the early phases of the innovators. So it is insanely early for DeFi. Centralized exchanges, about 20x that. So even though we're 20% of the volume, to actually get access to these users, we still need to do about a 20x from where we are now. And then on the far end of the spectrum is TradFi, and this is really where, like, if we're talking about disrupting TradFi, that's realistic. Like, it sounds wild, but that's where we want to get to. But we really need to look at it through that lens. So why do I think Felipe is important? I think Felipe is an obvious customer that we should be supporting today. And if he's not using our tech, then there's something like clearly wrong, something broken with what we're doing that needs to be fixed. So let's take a step back and take a look at it. So why do centralized exchanges win today? For a few reasons. Centralized exchanges have tight spreads and deeper liquidity. They have a very simple user experience. Their onboarding and off-ramping experience is far smoother than what we experience in DeFi. However, it's not all over. Decentralized exchanges do have some advantages, and that's why we've been able to get at least a 20% volume adoption. So it's composability it's composable with the rest of DeFi, so we can build really interesting primitives that just aren't possible off-chain. Permissionless, so anyone in the world can access it. We actually have a larger total addressable market on-chain than we do off-chain, just purely because anyone can access it. And then finally, self-custodial. Being able to custody your own assets is, I think, very, very advantageous, particularly given the world we live in today. So let's look at Rip, why he's making this Felipe, why he's making this decision. So Felipe gets paid in crypto. He dollar cost averages. So what that means is that he's quite price sensitive. He doesn't want to see 1% of his salary going to pay fees, and he values convenience. He's got to do this every month. He doesn't want to be a headache, so he can pay his bills. So let's look at what we've got to do to essentially bring DeFi up to the stage that centralized finance is today. So two things that we've progressed quite well. The simplified UX has come a long way. We've got account abstraction, We've got lots of tools to make that onboarding experience like super tidy. Then on and off ramping also has made a lot of progress. So the tech's there, but it hasn't seen the adoption yet, but I expect it will. So I'm fairly confident on those 2 points. But the point I'm nervous about is actually on tight spreads and deep liquidity. We still haven't come up with a viable solution for this for on-chain spot volumes. So let's do a little experiment. What if Felipe did trade on-chain? So let's do an experiment. Let's take all the trades from Binance and simulate them if we did run them fully on-chain on automated market makers. So I did this last night, ran this for about an hour over on the ETH-USD pair, and during that period there was about $26 million of volume, and if that volume was traded on-chain, those users would have lost $330,000 relative to what they would have had if they, what they did actually trade off-chain. And so what this ends up being is about a 1.25% loss relative to trading on-chain. And now this isn't an ideal perspective. You'll see these jumps in the chart, and that's from very large trades having a lot of slippage. So realistically, people aren't going to do that. They do it over time. So let's filter out the big trades. Even still, there would have been $150,000 of lost and about 0.5% in additional cost to just trade on-chain. So this is pretty eye-opening. I think it's very clear that if we can't solve this problem, we're not going to be able to graduate from the innovators to early adopters, let alone the early majority. So our thesis, and I'll cut to the chase, is that we're of the belief that fully on-chain order books are that missing piece. I'm going to dig into why. So automated market makers, this is what we know and love on-chain. These are very, very cool systems where you can simply deposit deposit tokens, and you can provide liquidity for the market. Completely permissionless to access, great for long-tail tokens to bootstrap liquidity. LP experience is super simple, anyone can participate, and they're great for resource-constrained environments. They need very few transactions to actually provide quite a bit of liquidity. However, the challenge is that they're very capital inefficient. Needs a lot of liquidity to build a comparatively equivalent amount of, a lot of capital to provide a comparatively equivalent amount of liquidity. And ultimately, it's the users that pay the bill at the end of the day. Whereas order books, as the counterpart, have very, very tight spreads, efficient price discovery. However, market making with order books is very complex, and currently just flat out isn't viable to do on-chain. So why don't we consider this? Let's slap an order book on-chain, and the reality of it is that we have. So Ether Delta launched in 2018 or 2016 possibly, and it essentially failed to scale. It's just too expensive and too slow to run these on-chain. And the reason for this is that market makers really need to be able to move their positions very, very fast. So if you, even at a latency of 1 second, it's just far too slow. You bring that down to 100 milliseconds, you can see here how fast you could potentially be moving your orders. But realistically, we need to bring that down to like 5 milliseconds to allow market makers to de-risk and actually move with the market and hedge their position. Otherwise, we're just going to have wide spreads, and it's just completely unviable. So let's look at the requirements for a fully on-chain order book DEX. I think the best place to look for this would be, say, the biggest exchange in the world, Binance, and the biggest on-chain exchange being, Perps exchange that is, being Hyperliquid. They have order speeds ranging from 1 to 50 milliseconds. Their throughput, steady state, around 10k TPS is what you need to support, with spikes up to 100k TPS. And then another thing that's like overlooked quite a bit is that it's just table stakes, that you need to have gasless transaction. This needs to be abstracted from users themselves, and you need to build a model where the gas isn't too expensive to operate. So that's where Rise comes in. We are essentially an EVM that's purpose-built for this use case. And it comes down to, we've developed this with 3 core pieces. At the top, we've got Rise Wallet. This is what enables us to do gasless transactions, smooth onboarding, one-click trading thanks to 7702 and session tokens. So the UX is there. We can actually do that today. So I'm stoked about that component. So we can get the onboarding, off-ramping. It'll feel like Web 2. The next part is what we call Market Core. So this is our EVM native EVM order book infrastructure, so it's native to the chain, but it's synchronously composable with the rest of DeFi. So it means when you're using DeFi products on Rise, they can compose directly with the order book. The tokens on the order book can be used in lending markets. You can do funky things like leverage loops, positions with the LP vault, for instance. And then finally is really the main event, is the Rise EVM. So this is what we spent 18 months building. This is a very, very high-performant EVM layer 2. We've got 3 milliseconds of latency. This is compared to, say, 200 milliseconds on base. And I've just showed on one of the previous slides how important latency is. And then finally, we're able to support up to 100K TPS. So this is in testnet. We've been running it for about 6 months. We're going to be going to mainnet soon. Now, infrastructure is great, but we need to actually have a platform to kind of bootstrap, dog feed, and attract users. So recently we announced that we are launching RiseX. RiseX is our flagship order book exchange, and it will be the first instance of an order book using Market Core. This will have one-click trading, no gas, zero fees for interface users, composable with DeFi from day one. Now, this is what I love about the Ethereum roadmap. L2s provide founders like myself an opportunity to obsess over a very particular vertical. And our obsession is DeFi, and more specifically, on-chain trading. So let's take a look at Felipe. Is he happy yet? Is he going to come on-chain? Is he going to start trading with us? Let's hope so. So we've essentially ticked all the boxes. And what really excites me about this and the potential that we've got ahead of us is that not only can we now offer a product that's as good as what we know and love, in centralized exchanges, we can actually build a better product because we have the composability with the rest of DeFi. We have permissionless access. Anyone can access it. Fully self-custodial. You don't need to trust anyone. I think this is probably the most important slide in my deck. This is massive. So this is what I think will win over these marginal users that are really important, because if we don't win them over, we've got no chance of getting the early adopters, no chance of getting your grandma on chain. And that's really what I want to be a take home. And fully on-chain order books are this missing piece. That's what's going to make this possible. So that's everything. Thank you very much. Check out the waitlist. Thank you.
Hello. Hi. Perfect. Thank you very much. I'm not as technical, so I want to ask you, if you have to explain me this as if I'm 5 years old, kind of, maybe 5 now, 10.
Yeah.
How it can help me and my trading?
You and your trading, I think. Is the mic's good?
Yeah.
Okay. How it can help you in trading, I think ultimately it's more about the users that monitor things like slippage. So if you're that monitor slippage. So if you're not price sensitive, it probably doesn't impact you. However, you won't see the growth unless you service those like higher end customers that are trading essentially large amounts. So if you're doing smaller amounts, it's not a big deal. But if you're doing larger amounts, or you're doing it like every month periodically, then it starts to really matter. So essentially you get more crypto or get more tokens for how much you spend. I'll say if it's like Forex, you're doing international transfers. Doing that on-chain with automated market makers compared to order books means you'll get more of your local currency, for instance.
Okay, perfect. There's someone else has a question. Don't be afraid to ask. There. No? Nobody has questions? Okay then. Well, thank you very much for your answer. Please give him a really big applause. Okay, thank you very much. Do you have a good time? Thank you. Thank you. Well, we continue with this World Fair stage. I don't know if the other speaker needs to change this. The other speaker needs to change this? No. Yeah, we have to change it. Okay, okay. So we'll be back in around 3 minutes. Thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure and see you around. 1, 2, 3. Try it. Perfect. Well, welcome back. Welcome back. I'm so amazed about our morning. I invite you, everyone, if you want to have your coffee or have your breakfast here. We are having a really good talks. You too, guys. You can join us. Don't be shy. You can join while you're having your breakfast. You're listening good things. Okay, welcome. Welcome you. How are you? Good? Perfect, perfect. You seem really comfy, guys. You seem really comfy. Thank you for joining us. Perfect. Okay, well, we are on the World's Fair stage. My name is Flor. I'm so honored to be your host, to be your MC today. And we've been throwing a lot of concepts. Some kind of them more technical, others more easy some for us technicals to understand. But right now, I'm kind of curious about what the next speaker is going to talk about, which is CK P2P. P2P is for P2Peer. P2P, right? P2P, perfect, perfect. Solving the first and last mile problem for stablecoins. I like the first and the last. It's a huge distance, so I think it's cool. It's cool, and well, no more introduce. Please, I invite you to do an applause and welcome to the stage to Sachin. Welcome. Hope you have a great talk.
Yeah, thank you.
Check, yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sachin from the ZK-P2P team. I'll be talking about ZK-P2P today, which is solving the first and the last mile problem for stablecoins. Also, a lot more people than in the audience than I expected, so that's good. So the way I'll go over the talk is I'll first explain the problem statement that we're solving at ZK-P2P. Then I will explain what ZK-P2P is, and then I'll give a demo of our mobile app, which is in private beta, which we launched at Devconnect. Going over the problem statement, as all of you know, fiat to crypto bridging is still very broken today. If any of you have on-off ramped before, you would understand the pain that you have to go through to be able to get your first crypto. The core reason that this problem exists is because these two layers, the fiat layer and the crypto layer, they cannot talk to each other. And the way to solve this problem is to introduce a middleman, which helps you facilitate this transaction from the fiat layer to the crypto layer and back. But then whenever you introduce a middleman in any situation, you introduce a bunch of problems. The first one includes high fees. Because they are giving you a service, they have basically control and they can charge as much as they want. For example, in the case of MoonPay, they charge you anywhere close to 3 to 6%. Most of the fees in that flow comes from credit card charges, which is close to 2 to 3%. Transact roughly charges 6% plus. And because these centralized intermediaries take custody of your assets, they are required by regulation to perform very intrusive KYC checks, and many a times they end up losing all the data on the internet, for example, Coinbase, and your data is out there on the internet and you're not, it's a very huge risk for you. Also because each of these jurisdictions have a different regulatory requirement that leads to different centralized intermediaries operating in each jurisdiction, which leads to fragmented liquidity, and you do not have this one place where you can go and on-ramp to crypto, which leads to a very bad UX. Finally, because you have humans in the loop, it leads to a very slow process because of the KYC, because of sometimes you might not get the verification on the right time, et cetera, et cetera. So overall, the fiat to crypto bridging, the UX is very broken, mainly because of the centralized intermediaries. One way to solve this problem is to basically remove the centralized intermediary and just trade peer-to-peer. For example, if Alice wants to sell crypto and Bob wants to buy crypto, they can just trade amongst themselves. And this leads to very low fees because there's a coincidence of wants here, where Alice is willing to sell crypto and Bob is willing to buy crypto. So they do not have to pay an additional fee to some intermediary. There are no middlemen. There is no KYC involved as well because Alice doesn't necessarily need to know your information, your address, your birth of date, just to give you the crypto. And like this is very scalable, as in it works one-to-one across every jurisdiction. There is no special requirements for this. But then peer-to-peer itself has its own problems. There are two main problems in peer-to-peer. One is the discoverability process, as in you would have to find someone who is willing to buy or sell the same amount of fiat for the same currency at the same time as you want to sell. And the second is the trust problem, where because you highly likely you do not know the other person whom you're trading against, then who sends the crypto or the fiat first? Yeah, so those are the two main problems with peer-to-peer. At ZKB2P, we have solved both the discoverability problem as well as the trust problem. And I will go over how we have done that in the next slides. But before that, a very quick introduction to what the core piece of technology that we are using in ZKB2P, it's in the name itself, which is ZK, which stands for Zero Knowledge. It's basically a short form of ZK SNARKs, which stands for Zero Knowledge Succinct Non-Interactive Argument of Knowledge. It's a new technology that allows you to basically compute a function and prove that you have computed it correctly without revealing the inputs to it. It gives you a couple of properties. One is verifiability, and the second is privacy. Verifiability basically means that you do not have to reveal the inputs of the function, but you can prove that the function was computed correctly. And privacy comes from the fact that you do not have to reveal your inputs. So that's what ZK is. You might have heard about it multiple times in this conference as well. The extension of ZK is ZK TLS, which stands for Zero Knowledge TLS, which is Transport Layer Security. It's a protocol built on top of ZK, which uses ZK to prove any given TLS transcript. For example, you can prove that you have received some data from Venmo or Wise or PayPal, that this transaction was done on Venmo, and you paid some person this much amount of money at this given time for this currency. And you can redact rest of the transactions, like you do not want to reveal your other transactions that you might have paid to your wife or other people, and you can only prove just that one particular bit. So like ZK is this new technology which basically allows you to connect these two layers, like the fiat layer, the banking layer, to the blockchain layer in a privacy-preserving way. And this is like a new breakthrough that we are using as ZKP2P to basically connect these two layers trustlessly and finally remove the middleman from the peer-to-peer transaction. So yeah, the solution, ZKP2P, a permissionless non-custodial protocol that connects Web2 fiat with Web3 crypto assets. It is fully on-chain. It is smart contract settled. We have an escrow contract which takes custody of your assets while the peer-to-peer transaction is being facilitated. It also performs verification. It's intents-based. You come to the platform and you say that you want to buy XYZ amount of assets, and then you lock the assets in the escrow, and then you do the off-chain payment. I'll go over how it works in the next slide. There is no additional verification. Like, we do not need to know what your address is. As long as you're able to prove that you have done the payment, it just works. And also, like, we rely on existing KYC that have already been done by the other platforms that we have integrated. For example, we have integrated Venmo, Revolut, Cash App, all the usual peer-to-peer payment platforms. And they have already KYC'd you, made sure that you are not part of ISS or a terrorist, and you're basically a normal person trying to use Venmo. So they have already KYC'd you, and we latch onto that KYC and use that in our protocol. Finally, because it is on-chain, it is composable, you can go from Venmo to Aave, Venmo to Hyperliquid in just one transaction. Going over how it works, it's a very simple process. Like, you have the seller which comes to the protocol, locks their assets locks their USDC, for example, in the escrow contract, and says, I want to sell my USDC at this rate. I'm willing to receive a Venmo at this ID. And yeah, and then they are AFK. They do not have to be online anymore. The buyer comes to the platform. They see the order book. They see all the rates that are there, and then they can choose one of them. they can lock the assets by signaling an intent to on-ramp. Once the assets are locked, they can do the off-chain payment and then prove that they've done the off-chain payment using ZK and ZK TLS technology that I explained earlier. The proof is directly sent to the smart contract. The smart contract verifies that the right amount was sent at the right time, to the right person, the right fiat currency on the right platform. Like that's the business logic that we validate. And then it unlocks the assets to the buyer. It's a very synchronous process for the buyer. Like you land on the platform, you land on zkp2b.xyz, and you are able to complete an on-ramp to any asset, any chain in just 60 to 60 seconds, right, basically. So this platform was live on web. We have been moving volume for about a year now. And during this Devconnect, we are launching not necessarily launching, like releasing our private beta for our mobile app, which allows you to use the same good old ZKP2B protocol, but on mobile. This QR code gives you access to the mobile app. And you can try downloading the app, try on-ramping, and give us a 5-star review. We're also integrated into the core Devconnect flow, so the wallet that Devconnect PWA has. If you go to the buy section, you would see ZKP2P as an option, as a privacy-preserving option to on-ramp to the Devconnect wallet in there. We support a bunch of payment platforms. Like if you have any of these payment platforms, you should be able to on-ramp via ZKP2P, aka Peer mobile app. I'll give you a second to scan the QR code if you haven't. Cool. Next, we'll dive into the demo. You can try to go through the mobile app as I'm demoing the mobile app. The invite code is devcon D3VC0N. So when you land on the app, we spin up a wallet for you. This wallet is protected by Privy, so you do not have to trust us to do a good job at making your assets secure. You enter your email, just like any other app. The app sends you, Privy sends you a code which you would have to enter in here. Yeah, and then we create a wallet for you. You can, if you would use the app right now, you would basically have zero balance. So the next step is how do you buy the assets? You click on buy, and then you choose the amount that you want to on-ramp and the currency, your preferred currency. For example, in this case, I've chosen USD and $1. Then you are given basically an option list to choose which platform you would like to pay on. We only support these platforms for now, but we are going to add a bunch of other new platforms soon. If you'd like to help us with that, it's like basically like a JSON template for each payment platform. You could help us integrate your favorite payment platform into ZKP2Pay. It's all open source. The repos are out there. You can send a PR. In this case, I chose Wise for my payment platform, and then I am given a quote, which is basic. This quote is top of the order book. There are multiple other quotes in the order book. In this case, I'm matched with Richard, who is my co-founder. It gives you a code basically that you would send $1 on Wise, you would receive 1 USDC. It gives you the rate as well as your peer, aka your counterparty in the transaction. Next, I initiate the transaction. Hold on. Yeah, I initiate the transaction, which locks the 1 USDC on the smart contract and gives me like a 6-hour duration to do the off-chain payment and then unlock the 1 USDC after I generate the proof. So I copy the Wise tag. I go to Wise. I pay to Richard on Wise. Once I've done the payment, I come back to the app and try to basically generate a proof of my payment. Yeah. At this step, we open a web view for you where you have to log in. which is part of the proof generation flow. This login is only done once for per payment platform, and subsequent logins is saved, so it gives you a good UX. It is secured by your Face ID, so it's like very similar to like 1Password, where your credentials are saved in the app itself, and it's secured by Face ID. So for now, because this is the first time I'm using Wise, I'll enter the email address and the password, log in into Wise, and then I'll have to go back and confirm that it's just me, classic security stuff. Yeah, once you have logged in, we grab the authentication token, which Wise gives you, and then initiate the ZK TLS protocol, which generates the ZK proof. In this particular case, we are using this new ZK proving system called NARC, which is written in Go. It is fairly fast. Like on iOS, you are able to generate a ZK proof, which is quite large in under 5 seconds. So it gives a very good UX to our users. On Android, it might be slightly slower. You generate the proof, then you verify the proof. This sends a transaction with the proof metadata to the chain, and the chain verifies the correct address, the correct recipient was paid at the right amount, and then you receive your USDC. So like I was able to create a wallet and get my USDC in under a minute, which I think hasn't been done before. And you can also see all your transactions in there. The one Wise USDC transaction that I did yesterday night, you can see it on top of the order book. Cool, that was the demo. Then, yeah, please try the app. Let us know if you face any issues. We have a booth right there. You can, if you on-ramp, you can grab some swag from the booth. Thanks for listening. Our docs are live at docs.zkp2p.xyz. You can try to integrate ZKP2P in your wallet, in your app, in your dApp. It's fairly simple to integrate. We have an SDK. We have an API for you, the Codes API. It's one-stop, like it's a one-to-one replacement for MoonPay, and you do not have to do KYB. In MoonPay's case, you have to do KYB. In our case, you just npm install ZKP2P and give the best on-ramp to your users. Thank you. Questions?
I go. Hey. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, now we're having the questions. There we have a question. Mike? Perfect.
It's kind of a long question.
It's okay.
Could you tell more about the target audience? Why I ask? Because most people in the US, for example, have bank account and Coinbase, so I guess they can buy any stable coin like that with very low fee or no fee. Then maybe so are the US people target audience or some other people from other countries? And what are the limitations? For example, like Wise doesn't allow to transfer more than $1,000 or $100,000. I don't know. Like, are there limitations? Then are countries also target audience? Like, thank you.
I mean, right now we have platforms that are integrated. We have support for US, Europe, Australia, Japan. We also have a Mercado Pago integration, so Argentinian people as well can use the app. Regarding why ZKP2P and why not Coinbase, like if you on-ramp via Coinbase, even though you get a one-to-one rate, first of all, that is capped at, I believe, 500 USDC. And then you have to wait for 5 days before you can withdraw your assets on chain. So if you're trying to ape into a meme coin, or if you just want to do DeFi, you'll have to wait for 5 days, because once you pay, let's say if you on-ramp using credit card, the credit card itself takes 2 days to settle. So they cannot just give you the crypto asset right then and now. So you'll have to wait for 5 days. I think in our case, it's literally 2 minutes. So that is the main value prop for our US users. Whereas for other users, like outside of the US, you do not have stuff like Coinbase. Like in India, I have to pay roughly 6% to on-ramp. Whereas in this case, because it's coincidence of wants, if somebody wants to sell crypto and I want to buy crypto, we can just match on the platform. And oftentimes you also see rates that are slightly lower than one-to-one. So you can on-ramp and get paid to on-ramp because somebody wants to sell crypto immediately if they have a reason to do it, and you can take their liquidity and on-ramp to crypto. Limitations, yes, like we are because we have integrated these payment platforms. Like Wise, if they have a limit, you cannot send more than that. So obviously you are limited by the payment platform itself. I think in Wise case, it depends on your account tier. Revolut is very comfortable with these transactions, so you can do like 20K, 30K. We have facilitated 30K trades in one single proof on the platform as well. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and so is the target audience whole world, or you have 1-2 countries where like this is super needed, super necessary?
Eventually, like you might have heard of Binance P2P, which is this peer-to-peer platform facilitated by Binance. We do want to, like it's global, the tech is global, its tech is on-chain. It's basically a matter of integrating every platform one after the other, and we would like to integrate all of them. Like we want to be global.
Thank you so much for your questions. We have another one.
Do you have any choice over how your counterparty is selected?
Yes, you can. So in the demo, we only had one order. We are shipping a feature where you can click and see all your counterparties. Even on the web app, if you go to zkb2b.xyz, you see all your counterparties and see all the rates, and then you can choose your counterparty.
Do they have like a trust score?
We don't have a trust score yet. Because in our particular case, you are not trusting anyone. If you think about it, you are just trusting that the fact that the technology is reliable and you can generate a proof, and you're trusting that the smart contract is written correctly. So you do not need a trust score. But because this technology is new, the flow is new, sometimes you might not be able to generate a proof. So for that, we are working on a reputation system where if some seller is very active on the platform and they have facility, like for example, if a buyer is not able to pay or paid in the wrong currency or not able to generate a proof, there's a bug in the protocol, then they would have to manually step in and release the USDC to you after you have paid them. So that's why we are going to introduce a trust score, which is going to be like a medium-term solution while we are fixing all the bugs in the technology. But down the line, like the end goal does not require you to trust anyone, similar to blockchains.
But what happens if they then revert the payment, or it's an account that's been stolen?
So, for example, all the payment platforms that we have right now, all of them, we only allow P2P transfers, so you cannot do chargebacks. It's very hard to do chargeback. And if the account is stolen, I think that's more of a Venmo problem. Like if you steal an account and if you are able to transact, if you're able to pay to anyone and double spend, etc., that's like more of a Venmo problem. So we're relying on these existing payment platforms, which have, I think, very big compliance teams to help not do that. Yeah, we're basically latching on to their compliance teams.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question, and thank you very much for your answer. But I do have one more question. Because there's a lot of people, oh my God, there's a lot of people coming here to Buenos Aires, yes? And I'm curious about which payment methods are you using for daily life?
We do have Mercado Pago integration, so you can use your Mercado Pago to on-ramp from ARS to USDC.
You're using Mercado Pago?
Yeah.
Okay. What about you? What are you using right now? Where is the mic? There. Can you tell me what are you using? Revolut. Okay. What about you? Yeah?
Apple Pay.
Apple Pay. Okay. What are you using? Revolut too. You're paying with USDT, USDC directly, and then it converts. Yeah, I think that's the best option. Yes. Because Mercado Pago, nothing. So yeah, because I wanted to know how you were like just paying things in the real life here in Argentina. So if there is no more questions, no. Okay, thank you, Sachin, for your time. I hope you have a good time here. It was really interesting. So we're going to have a few minutes for break, Please give Sajin a really big applause. Thank you very much for sharing with us. welcome back to this world first stage scenario, which I'm really honored to join with us. And now look at this title. I think this is promising because I think one of the most difficult things nowadays, mostly with this environment technology community, is to be useful and have the usability for users. So in UX, we're talking about how the users are interacting with your platform or how we as users interact with our phones, our computers, our everything. So I invite everyone, I don't know if you can listen to me. Yeah, better. I invite everyone if you want to join us and listen because there's a lot of hard skills kind of project that I see that there's kind of lack of this. So maybe it's for your interest to start hearing what users are looking for. So, well, now I'm going to present this excellent talk. And yeah, well, you can keep continue. I please you invite you to the stage. Please have an applause for Brian Smokvich. Brian,
thank you so much.
Have a nice talk.
Thank you. All right, testing, testing. Y'all can hear me? Cool. Quick before we begin, would like to take a moment to acknowledge Roman Storm and the other developers who are fighting for our privacy or are currently in jail while we walk freely and are able to be at these conferences. So I wanted to talk more about UX, UI, how to make things better for users, right? There we go. Hello, hello. About 2 weeks ago, is it still? It sounds less. Okay, we're good. About 2 weeks ago, I gave this talk, and the first question afterwards was, what is the difference between front-end UI and UX? I figured what a great way to start the conversation, right? So I'm sure many of us are familiar with this, but if you're not, just as a primer, front end is basically the code. It's where everything sits. It's what our developers use. It's Flutter, React Native, whatever it may be, and it's what makes the app itself work. UI is the design. It's what the user sees. It's the colors. It's the typography. It's the shape. It's the corners. It's the contrast of the app itself. And then there's the user experience, and that's what we'll be talking about today. The user experience is often the forgotten half of UX UI, and it's because people think if you have a pretty UI or good branding, that means you have a good UX. And that's just absolutely not the case. And so a very good example of the difference between them, for example, is this is our one-time password sign-in for our application. And very frequently a question I get from VCs is, well, what if someone just copies your UX, right? If your UX is your competitive edge, what if they copy it? And I don't think it's personally a very good question because when people, what they're thinking is that they're going to copy your UI. And so this is a UI. The paste button, the enter the code, the numpad, this is a UI. The UX is what you don't see here. The UX is, for example, that paste button. If you copy your code and you go to press that paste button, but instead of the paste button working, the keyboard closes because the focus is on the screen, and if that paste button doesn't work while the keyboard is open, that's UX. That is something that you can only see by watching your users, by making sure that when you watch them onboard that, this button is working in the way that I expect it to work when the app is doing certain behavioral instances. And so why is there terrible UX in our space? Well, I genuinely believe it's because it's a lack of empathy. In my opinion, UX is all about empathy. It's putting yourself in your user's shoes and understanding exactly what it is they want to do. A lot of us just build products in the hope that someone's going to like it or someone's going to use it because we thought the idea was cool or we wanted to build a feature. And usually it results in complex interfaces and the user just not understanding what's happening. And I know that everyone says this, and you may not want to hear me say it, but talk to your users, right? We all hear it all the time. Talk to your users, talk to your users. And the truth is, most founders I meet don't actually talk to their users. And so I'll just harp on it again. And the way to start is to start with not the feature, not the cool thing that we want to build, but the actual problem. What it is that the user wants to do, how do I then make that path effortless, and then build the minimum viable path to get there. And so a good example of this is wanting to send money, right? When I hit send, if I want to send money, I have an expectation. And that expectation needs to be met from us as designers, right? If I want to send money as a user, I know who I want to send money to, how much I want to send to them, and what currency I want to send it in. And as a user, if I go into a user face and I don't have these things, I'm going to have a bad time because my expectations are not being met for the actions that I specifically want to take. And so it is our job to align with those expectations and not surprise the user. You can surprise the user in very certain circumstances, but it has to result in a positive experience. If you implement something and it results in a negative experience, if someone uses your app and they have a bad time, they are less likely to come back to your app. So we always have to provide a neutral to positive experience, and unexpected events should almost always result in a positive experience. It's something like if you deposit money and you pop up confetti, right? It's like, okay, it doesn't add too much, but it adds a nice little dopamine hit. It's a positive experience, and it's something unexpected. So this is going to be particularly for mobile. I've built a mobile app, and so a lot of our things are mobile focused. I will touch on desktop a bit. But when building in mobile, you want one decision per screen. In desktop, it's a bit different. What you can do is, it's called grouping. And you basically want to group similar actions, similar information into the same area. For example, if I'm going to use a click or a keyboard, I want to have all my clicks in the same place, and then I want to follow it with all the keyboard interactions. And that way, when you're thinking when the user's interacting with my desktop application, they're not going click, keyboard, click, keyboard. It's click, 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 keyboard, keyboard, keyboard. It's much faster, it's much smoother, and you're not breaking up what's happening. When it comes to mobile, less is more. Like we have short attention spans. We have to optimize for short attention spans. And what you want is you want someone to see what's on the screen, to make a decision, to go to the next screen, to see what's on the screen and make a decision. The most common problem I've seen with mobile apps is they try to get you to do 3 different things on the same screen, and even if you're implementing, it's okay to implement more screens if the user experience is much more intuitive because it ends up being faster at the end of the day. And tapping beats typing. On mobile, people don't love to type, right? They like to tap. Try to place things in the bottom half of the screen because that's where our thumb is. A lot of people nowadays, they have iPhone Maxes, they have these new Airs. The screen is humongous. And if you don't put things in the bottom half of the screen, they have to slide their phone down in their hands so that the thumb can reach the top part. And it's one of the most annoying things while using a mobile app is like, bro, I don't want to have to I want to use one hand, right? We all use another hand for something else. Drinking water, holding your girlfriend's hand. Like, it happens to me all the time. I'm on my phone, right? Tap, tap, tap. I don't want to use 2 hands to do something. So we should focus on optimizing for one single hand. And only when you absolutely need to, when typing is the most effective method of input, should you use it. I have a good example of this. Something that really annoys me is when when you have to insert your birth date into an app, and they actually don't do typing interface, which is the most efficient method for this. What they do is they give you a calendar, but that calendar is of the modern day calendar. It's of 2025, and they give me 30 days of 2025, and I now have to go into the app, find a different year, go to that year, scroll back to February, and then choose my day. it is so much more efficient to let the user just type in their birthday at that point. And this one might be a little controversial, but you have to always predict behavior. You observe the pattern, anticipate intent, and then reduce that friction. Behavioral data is a gold mine, and you can use apps like Mixpanel or AppsFlyer, which are very good for watching your users, the user journey through your app and seeing where they fall off, where you need to improve conversion, because that's growth at the end of the day, right? If you can reduce the friction by improving all your conversion pages, people will like your app more. And so, for example, going back to the original example of sending money, if I send money to my brother every week, I want to know, instead of having to type my brother's name every single week, I want my app to be smart and say, here's your brother as a contact. So instead of having to type in my name, all I have to do is tap it, right? It learns my behavior, and then now, instead of having to take that other thumb, 2 thumbs and type, it's just one single tap to find my brother. It is important here to be conscious of the difference between behavioral data and user data. I think us being in Web3, we very much like to be data minimalist, right? Collect as little data as possible. I'll encourage to collect as little data as possible. And we want our privacy. When it comes to behavioral data, I think as long as you're collecting things that will improve the user experience at the end of the day, that is basically the most ethical data that you can collect. Another potentially controversial one is that redundancy is not evil. Give users multiple paths to the same user journey in the early stages, especially of your app. And the reason for this is that you can be the best UX designer there is. It doesn't mean that the users are going to do what you want them to do. You can have a really large call to action, wonderful button, and you can be sitting there going, press the button. Like, you're going to press the button, right? Like, I do it all the time. You watch, you're going to press the button. And they don't press the button because they want to press other things. And so instead of having the one button, what you can do is you can have one button. You can have something on the nav bar. You can have something from within their accounts go to the same user flow. And you create these multiple user journeys. Because at the end of the day, because we're human, we all do things very differently. One-time passwords, for example. When you get a one-time password, if you get it to your email and you switch apps, right? You go to your email. Some people copy it. Some people memorize it. Some people go back to the app by swiping on the bottom. Some people go back to the app by searching it. There's no wrong way to do these things. It's just that we all do things in multiple different ways. And so the most important thing in my mind, and what I really love about apps that do this, is it creates multiple user paths. There's always ways for the user to get to the desired screen. And then what you do is you use these apps that I mentioned before, like Mixpanel or AppsFlyer, to track the user behavior. And let's say, for example, you have 3 paths to a certain user experience, and one never gets used. Amazing. Now you call that one, you get rid of that one, and you have additional screen space for other things. But at least now you've created 2 user habits to get to frequently used interactions on the app. This is especially good for app creators that are developing their own thing without the budget to build UX, UI, or hire an expert designer. So definitely recommend this. Just minimize it at the end. And watch your users. Be a creep. You need to look over their shoulder. While they're onboarding to my app, I am a little creepy. I watch your screen because I need to see what's working. I need to see every little thing that's not working so I can go back and fix it. Because otherwise, other people will run into these same issues, right? If you have friends, if you're looking for users, if you can't get users, a big complaint of builders is, well, I have no users, right? Go annoy your friends. Message them. Be like, bro, please use my app. I need to see how this works. I need to see what your initial impression is, what you think of things, right? Either screen share, have them talk out loud while they watch and go through your thing. What are they thinking? Where are they going? Where do their eyes go? There's a lot of applications and desktop applications for this as well. Take notes, record sessions. And again, they're going to ignore the CTA. You have to make it call attention. Have your call to action call attention. It should contrast. Sometimes even a little bit of movement is nice if it's minimal and not too distracting. And clear copy, of course. And one thing that I see a lot of app users do is they create multiple calls to action. Don't compete with yourself. You can have two buttons go to the same place, redundancy, right? But only one should actually be a call to action. One should be a large, bright, contrasting color, very easy to see. Because once you create two call to actions, you confuse the user. They're like, oh, do I do this? Do I do that? If there's more than one call to action, you have no call to action. And if they're not pressing it, it's your fault. Never blame the user. So the honey jar problem. There were these two honey, there were two farmers that would go to the farmer's market every week, and they brought 40 jars, 40 different flavors of their amazing honey. And they didn't sell anything, ever, because people would be paralyzed by the fear, by the decision, by the need to make a decision. And what they did is they reduced their options to 6. And at that moment, their sales grew exponentially. Every week they were selling out of the farmer's market because people didn't want to make decisions. People still don't want to make decisions. They want to be guided. They want to be recommended. They want featured things so that they know exactly where to go so that you can remove their need to think. Personally, I usually think about 3 decisions is the sweet spot for things. You can go above if you do it nicely in the UI. There's no science here, but 3 generally is the sweet spot. Try to direct, or even 1, honestly, if you know exactly where you want to guide users, reduce the need to think at all times. The more text you add, the less likely they are to read it. So many times in apps, there are paragraphs, there's these things and disclaimers, and, oh, I will explain my user how to do this by giving them a short paragraph on how it works, right? And they're going to read it, and then they're going to know how it works. And what do is they skip it. Every time, right? I don't like to read. I love to read books. I don't love to read in apps. If I go to an app, I'm expecting the call to action to tell me exactly what's happening in 1 word, right? Or 2 words. Create account, next, continue, email. Our brains are conditioned now we read in these ways. We no longer read with letters. We don't read in words. Well, we read in words and sentences, and what we can do is our minds have adapted in a way to be able to read sentences at large at a glance. And this has now been adapted to screens. We can look at the screen and almost immediately know what they're looking for. Email, SMS, next. Like we are conditioned because of using apps over and over and over. We have a general idea of what they want from us in that moment. And so it's your job to use less text. Again, guide, don't ask. At one point, we had a button in our call to action that was the large button, the only thing to press. And what do people do? They don't press it. So what did? I removed the button. I got rid of the button. I said tap anywhere to progress. Anywhere on the screen, didn't matter. We have 100% conversion on that screen now. It's great. And so the future of Ethereum UX, because we should all tie it in while here at Devconnect. We no longer need seed phrases. We have account abstraction and NPC, smart accounts, which allows us to get rid of gas approvals, which allows us to sponsor gas, which allows us to batch transactions so that you combine everything, swap, bridging, staking, deposits, withdrawals, sends. You can make this all happen in one transaction so that the user doesn't have to input and interact with their app over and over and over and over again. Again, please reduce taps, reduce decisions, reduce things that the user needs to do. If you're building a gaming app, please use session keys. No one wants to have to approve every transaction every time they pick up loot from a monster. And then finally, zaps, compressing multi-chain complexity all into a single click. A zap would be if I can send any token from any chain and deposit it to a vault all in one transaction. The future of Ethereum UX is invisible, and it's our job to just make one that works. So to leave you off with a few final notes, be intentional. Nothing in good UX happens by accident. When you watch someone build an app, or when you use someone's app, realize that every element, every UX, every UI, every single thing was a decision, right? It wasn't just born. I mean, maybe now in the day of AI and vibe coding, some of it is just born. But in real, hardened apps that engineers have put a lot of time into, these things aren't just by accident, right? And so you need to be very intentional when you do anything. When you design, every button, every field, every text, every single thing should have some sort of purpose within your application. So the key takeaways is talk to your users, start with the problem, one decision per screen on mobile, contrast your CTA, 3 choices max, and design with intention, because at the end of the day, UX is empathy made visible. And I promise if you do these things, your UX will be better than 90% of the applications out there. So finally, meet PistachioFi. I didn't want to make a big shill, so I decided to teach instead, something that personally I have learned through trial by fire, of talking to hundreds, if not 1,000 users, over and over and over again about learning what the pitfalls are, how to make things easier and nicer for users. And we built all of this into our one Web3 experience, no gas, no seeds, fluid movements, intentional design with every user flow. It's a really sick app, if I say so myself, so please give it a shot. We built it to basically smoothen all the complaints of Ethereum UX that we've had over this last decade. Thank you. I have 5 seconds. And so if you want, follow me on X or message me on Telegram. I'm very easily reachable. If you disagree with any of the things that I said, come find me and let me know why. I'm happy to have that talk. I know design is a very subjective topic. Cool.
Please. Thank you.
I believe I have 5 minutes for Q&A.
Yeah, we're going
anyone has any questions.
going to ask people
Okay.
if they have questions.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It was really, really. Do you hear me well? Yeah. That better, right? Okay. So I don't have to shout. It's so interesting what you're saying here, because I always say that users are kind of lazy.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Very lazy.
Very lazy.
Very
Us
lazy.
as we user,
Doing, thinking, lazy. Optimized for lazy.
That's right. And what I think, tell me if you agree with me, is that for this environment, as a builders, sometimes they have to put their ego away to think more about who is going to use what you're doing, what you're building. So I think all of those steps that you said are so accurate. So thank you very much. And I don't know if someone has questions. Yes, sir. Do you have the mic? Perfect.
Yeah, hi. So I had a question. There's a general tension when you build.
Sorry, you can pull your mic.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, better.
Okay, so there's a general tension in UX when you make things very smooth to the point of inducing people into a state of flow, which is great. At the same time, in crypto or in financial apps, there are, you don't want to put people to a lull, because you might end up being in a flow and losing, I don't know, a grand, 1,000 or whatever, right? How do you make sure to wake people up? Because, for example, there's a long history in accounting app, pre-crypto, where they had problems where they made the accounting app so easy, people started making mistakes. So, and crypto, as you know, is full of, people losing money all the time and bad UX. So while solving the UX problem, how do you not encourage people to, how do you do it?
Excellent question. Intentional friction. So many times some people want UX to be as smooth as possible, and I very much agree with you, it should not be. There's certain things that need to be smoothened, and there's certain things that shouldn't be smoothened, and there's actually unique and creative ways that you can add intentional friction to do these things. So for example, the send flow always works for everything. And so when going through a send flow, the problem here would be, what if I accidentally send money to the wrong person, right? Or I send too much money to the wrong person. And so how do we account for these two things? One would be a confirmation screen, right? Instead of just being send, it's gone. A secondary confirmation screen to say, hey, you are sending this much money to this much person. Are you sure you want to make this decision?
Sorry, the wallet, it's agree with the chain.
Yeah,
that happens a lot.
The right chain as well, yes, which is always good to show in like a sub. The chain's a hard topic because in certain circumstances we want to abstract that away as much as possible.
Yes.
For example, if you use Pistachio, you can send money to anyone, and we support all the internal chains. So if you send money, you're never going to get it lost, right?
Okay.
One more. Sorry, I agree with you, but would be interesting to see in your slides that the dichotomy, because not just you, but usually people focus a lot on, oh, it's bad UX, let's make it, but also saying it's sometimes good not to, I mean, I agree what you're saying, but maybe you should highlight it a bit more in your deck. And in general, folks who work on design should highlight it more. Like, it's not, for example, enough to add confirmation screen. It's also important to have the confirmation screen in such a way, for example, the yes button, always not in the same place. You cannot blindly say yes, 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 okay, okay, yes, yes, yes. Let's get it over with, you know? So you have to kind of trick the user in a way. They're like a bit disturbed also. They're like, this thing sucks. They're like, okay, I'm about to, thank God. You see what I mean? And
a common way that I've seen this done that we use as well is, instead of just having a button, to change the format of the button, to do a hold to swap or slide to swap. And this new interaction creates a minimum level of minimum friction, but that also, it stops the user, right? To stop the user in their tracks, instead of tap, 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 it goes through, tap, tap, oh, wait, I can't do this. Wait, why can't I do this? Oh, I need to slide because I first have to confirm. You're stopping them, and it's enough friction to stop them without really making their life harder. And so this is only the second time I've given this talk, and I tried to brain dump as much of the stuff I've learned as possible, but I will absolutely be adding intentional friction to the next time I give this, so thank you so much.
Thank you for your talk.
Thank you
for the question.
Amazing talk, by the way. Super interesting. Super, super, super interesting. Do we have more questions? Don't be shy. There. Perfect.
My throat is cooked after a week. I'm sure you guys can empathize.
Thank you very much for the talk. It was very informative. I learned a lot about UX and UI, so thank you for that. One thing that resonated with me was when you talked about the use of confetti as a dopamine hit for your users. I was wondering if you use any other tactics like that to engage users in your app.
Yeah, so we use little success messages are great. One thing that we haven't done yet, because we are a small team, so as we iterate, but basically we're going to be implementing a sort of experience system, and which is like overlaid with loyalty essentially. And so these types of things, when a user, in order to reinforce certain user behaviors, to get them to come back, it's why points were so big, right? Because people want to farm them. But instead of doing like straight points, you can do it in a more fun way that actually engages with the user, where they feel like they're gaining something, even though maybe they're not gaining anything, right? I'm getting experience, I'm getting loyalty, I'm getting status. Everyone loves status. And so status, I think, is one of the absolute best things to build into any app ever, right? It's the reason people follow people on X. It's the reason people share things, because everyone to some degree wants clout. So if you can build these sort of intents into your app, like we will be, I'm always like a big fan of those types of things, because it's human nature to some degree. So play into the human nature.
Great answer. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions. There is another questions out there. No, no one. Don't be shy. Okay. You know what I want to take double click, it was on predictability. You've been talking about that, and how easy for us users is like taking your wallet, and maybe I don't know how it works, so this is my questions. Because the other day I was on the one shop, and automatically it say, "Do you want to transfer there?" My app. So how does it know? It's about like GPS or like the time or the hour that I'm used to do that transfer.
What was the circumstance of it?
It happened to me a few times.
Yeah.
For now, but I remember more exactly the other day I was in my bed about to order food. Okay, so my supplier of my food, I always like deposit him, and when I open my transaction wallet, they say, "Do you want to transfer to my food guy?" And I say, "Yes." How did you know? And I did it like so happy.
Yeah, so again, it's all algorithmic behavior.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people think our phones are listening to us, and
They're not.
they are,
Ah.
but in a different way.
Yeah, yeah.
Not in the way that we
We
expect
can lie
them to.
between each other, you know. We know.
Yeah. They do listen to us, but for these particular behaviors, they're like our phone isn't listening to us and then giving us these behaviors from Facebook, for example. It's just that the algorithms are very, very good, and we
Yeah.
have comprehensive amounts of like user data on the internet already, and so they have profiles of us.
Mhm.
That's why we need better Web3, right? Because they collect our data. Like these Web2 companies make most of their money off of our data, harvesting it, creating user profiles, and then reselling it. We collect almost no data. Like we collect like which IP you've connected to because we have to from the App Store, right?
Yeah.
And like which email you sign up with, and that's pretty much it. But in the future, in a kind of a visionary sense, what I would personally love to do
Yeah.
is enable you to turn on your data capture only if you get compensated for it.
Okay, I mean like to expose your data only
Right.
whenever you want.
To expose your data
only when
based
you
on
want.
your permissions to say,
Okay.
yes, I am this age, I am these things, I am interested in these things.
Yes.
But because you are reselling my data, I get a cut of that, right?
Ah,
Because
yeah.
our data is already out there being rehashed and resold a million
Eating
times
cookies,
over.
accept cookies, and
Yeah, right now reject those cookies.
yes. You know, the other day in a talk, it was like we share cookies, you know, and we say, "Do you know what are you eating?"
Yeah.
Well, the same happens with when you accept the cookies. You don't know who is eating your data.
Yeah. I love that analogy.
Perfect. Well, we have one more question, or we can have the other talk now. Okay. Thank you very much. It was really, really interesting. Please, big applause. Thank you very much
so
for
much.
coming.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay. 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 So we're having a lunch break. Thank you very much for joining us. It was a pleasure to be your host this morning. I hope you have a great time, a great day. Enjoy, absorb everything you can for this conference, and I hope you're having a really good time in Argentina. Thank you very much.
good afternoon, everybody. I have good afternoon, everybody. Hello, good afternoon. I wish you all a very nice day today. I hope you had some sleep on a Saturday. I hope you had a very fantastic Devconnect so far. Hello. Good afternoon, good morning for all the ones who went out yesterday. Voila, we have a beautiful sound going on. And good afternoon, everybody. We are almost having a very beautiful Devconnect week. I invite you all to come to the stage to have the last two talks of this week coming here on the Saturday. We have a fantastic expert who has over 13 years experience in growth marketing, behavioral economics, talking about paradoxes. You know, the funny thing about paradoxes is that although they're quite illogical, they somehow always keep making sense. I guess that's what makes them also a paradox in the end. And who's better to explain a paradox than an expert in behavioral economics? Today I would like to introduce you to Tobias Frieder, who will be talking about the gateway paradox. Tobias Frieder, head of LATAM from Overam, please join me on the stage. I will give the whole stage to you. Enjoy.
Thank you. Hi everybody, I hope you are enjoying this week and this Saturday here in Devconnect. I am Tobias. Thank you for the introduction. I am the head of Latin America and head of growth at Offramp. Offramp, if you don't know it, is a stablecoin neobank. And today I'm going to speak about a concept I call the gateway paradox, which is actually a behavior that we see in Offramp, in our users. And it's actually something general of the payments in crypto. So if you are interested in the payments use case in crypto, this is probably going to be interesting for you. So first, I want to speak a little about some things of what we are not going to speak about in these 20 minutes. I am not going to speak about banking the unbanked. I am not going to discuss if Web3 is or isn't the future, if DeFi will replace banks, or if crypto will replace fiat. And I am not going to speak about any of these things because all these things are quite like ideological or philosophical. These are things that we as crypto users, crypto natives, builders, we think that these things are happening or will happen in the next 5 or 20 years. And probably some of the conversations during this week have been around these topics. And we have been seeing some signals or some early insight that these things are happening. But today I'm going to speak about something that is actually going on at scale in some crypto payments companies. So let me start giving some context. This is probably something obvious for most of you, but there are two types of people in the world, the crypto natives and the rest of the world. And probably the proportion is even like smaller for the crypto natives. Like it's not like this. There are still less crypto natives. And we need to understand that if we are building for the whole world, we need to understand this and understand how to create products for mainstream population. And a specific thing that we need to assume is that most people don't care about crypto. We tend to focus our initiatives to become mainstream in things like improving the UX, improving the technology, but the reality is that crypto doesn't have a problem of technology or UX. It has a problem of relevance, of indifference. People don't care about crypto, and if we want to solve that problem and include those people into crypto, we need to understand and assume this. And I think this is not a problem, it's actually an opportunity for us. As you heard during the introduction, I am a behavioral economist. I have a master in behavioral economics. And the key aspect of behavioral economics is that people don't make choices based on rationality, but based on some psychological biases or heuristics. And in that sense, people don't necessarily will choose to make a specific action if we explain them why that action is a better solution for their specific problems. Sometimes FOMO or scarcity are more effective to drive action. And relating to crypto, it's an opportunity for us as builders, as people that are building products, to become mainstream in crypto, as long as we stop trying to make people understand why it's better, to stop selling the idea of crypto and start making people use crypto in their real lives. And this is the first concept I want to speak about today, which is the egocentric bias, which is that the main concept of the egocentric bias is that people tend to think that when they want to teach something to someone else, the other person needs to learn those things in the same way I like to learn. So if I am a very visual person and I like to learn things with visual images, if I have to explain something to someone else, I will try to do it like draw a picture or showing a graph or a slide. And the bias here is that we as builders, we are here on a Saturday in November in Buenos Aires. Some of you travel from all over the world. So we are very intellectually ambitious, right? We are here trying to learn new things, and our way of adopting new products is by understanding, by listening, by investigating, by making our own research about these things. But we are not like the rest of the world. So we tend to think that the way of onboarding people is by education. We must educate people in order to onboard them into crypto. We hear this a lot of times. I think that's a total error. People don't want to be educated. People don't want to learn. Most of people just want a seamless and a simple and efficient life, or maybe also a car that lights up and that is scarce. If you don't know what I'm speaking about, go to our booth and you will know why I mentioned this. I mean, a lot of people was onboarded to Off-Ramp this week, not because of the benefits of our platform, but because we were giving a very scarce and very shiny asset. So now let me speak a bit about Off-Ramp, just to give some context about what's going next. Off-Ramp is a stablecoin neobank. With Off-Ramp, you can create your account, you can top up your crypto and use it anywhere in the world with our Visa card or with QR payments in Argentina, Brazil, and Peru for now. And what we see in Off-Ramp is this specific behavior that I call the gateway paradox, which is that we have two different types of users that are using the same product for two different and actually opposite reasons. For one thing, we have on-chain natives that use payments or Off-Ramp in particular as their last mile in their on-chain interaction. Now I will explain a bit more about this. And at the same time, we have another audience that I call the off-chain humans that use Off-Ramp and payments in general as their first mile in their on-chain interaction. So let's start with what I mean with the on-chain natives. With on-chain native, I mean an Ethereum OG. Imagine a person that bought ETH 5 years ago and made a lot of money and is now trying to use his wealth. People like a Solidity developer that works and gets his salary in crypto, or a DeFi farmer that invests in DeFi and makes a lot of money. And what happens with these people is that they can invest, swap, trade, tokenize, borrow, lend, but they can't buy a coffee. Here in the venue they can, because fortunately we can pay with crypto, but in the rest of the world you can be a millionaire on chain, but if you don't have a way to use those funds, you can't, you don't have the bridge with the real world. So that's why payments in crypto and all these stablecoins neobank became so popular in the last 2 years for crypto natives. Because at a specific moment now, it's possible for us to use our funds in the real life. Anywhere, we give users our Visa international card, so now a person, a crypto native, can pay for a coffee in a small town in Uganda if they accept Visa. That's crazy. And how are these users using off-ramp right now? They are depositing their stable coins. They are investing in our tokenized stocks or treasury bills. And then when they need to use those funds, they can buy things in real life with Visa, QR. And if they need, they can withdraw their funds in an ATM or in local bank transfers. So what happens with these on-chain natives is that crypto actually solved the sovereignty, right? Like we were looking for a way to be like real owners of our savings, to be our own banks and all this ideological ethos of crypto. But our reality still runs in Visa, right? In the Visa rails. We need to buy things, we need to pay for our rent, and in most cases, we can't do it with crypto. So, this is my opinion, but I think that these on-chain natives don't need another DeFi protocol, I mean, there are so many chains, so many protocols, so many things going on-chain, but the main challenge right now is to build the bridges in and out into that world, right? So now let's go to the most interesting part, which are the off-chain humans, because it's probably not you. Probably these are like the other, like the opposite audience. And with off-chain humans, I don't mean the rest of the world here. I mean people that are in the global economy, right? People like freelancers, expats, remote workers, travelers, people that send or receive remittances. And what happens with these people is that they don't understand crypto, they don't care about crypto, they don't want to learn about crypto, but they are using crypto now. And this happens, and so sometimes they realize, wow, I'm using crypto. And they start to get into the on-chain world and start to invest and start to do other things into the ecosystem. So how these people use crypto? These people maybe imagine a remote worker that is working for a US company. He gets paid in like an ACH or wire transaction, so their employer isn't paying in crypto, just making a US transaction. Then also that person can deposit money. Imagine a person from Colombia can deposit fiat into off-ramp too. They can use those funds to pay with Visa, QR, depending on the country, and they can also withdraw. So we have thousands of users that are receiving their salaries in US dollars from the US, using with the card, using with QR, and withdrawing fiat in their local markets to pay for their rent. They are using crypto and they don't know it. So for these off-chain humans, crypto is nothing ideological. They don't care about crypto. They don't think if Web3 is the future, if DeFi will replace bank. They don't even know what DeFi is, and they don't want to know it. What they need is like a more seamless life, right? They use solutions like off-ramp because it gives them access, it gives them speed. It's like pragmatic for them to use it. And in this case, and I think that this is like the most important concept of my talk, is that I think that the error is that we want people to adopt crypto. So we think that if we explain them and we show them the benefits, they will do it. And I think that that works for people like us and probably for a lot of other people in the world. But like the real adoption is coming from projects that are are using efficiencies of crypto to adopt the users. We need to conquer the users by providing them better solutions, and they will use them as long as they are efficient for them and as long as they want to do it, right? So I think that's now going in general into the payments use case. I think that's the challenge and also the beauty of the crypto payments app, that the same product works at the same time for two different audiences in opposite ways. That's the gateway paradox. I think that payments are actually the gateway. For beginners, it's the door they need to go to get into the on-chain world, and at the same time, it's the way for crypto natives to get out from the on-chain world. I think that crypto isn't the destination. That's why I started with all the ideological or philosophical concepts that we usually listen and repeat. Because if we focus on that, we are focusing on the destination, on where we are going and why we are going there. I don't care about that, to be honest. I think that crypto is the infrastructure to build a better world now, and there are some specific use cases that are being used for that. Payments, in general, is in my opinion, the most interesting use case today in crypto, because it's the way, it's the door we all need to get to go through. Some people to get it in, some people to get out, and that's why I think it's the most interesting use case in crypto, and that's why also I think it's totally inevitable. Thank you. In case you want to learn more about OffRamp, there is our website. That's my Twitter and my Telegram too, in case you want to contact me. And happy to answer questions or discuss more things now. Thank you.
Microphone, check. Wow, what a great conversation you had there. Thank you, Tobias. I think what really stuck with me were two things: that people want it as efficient as possible. You know, it's like they want to flow where it's easy, not where it's hard. And I really liked how you were saying we need to adopt the people. It's a fantastic mentality. Thank you for sharing your learnings. I wanted to ask if anybody of the audience would have any follow-up questions for Tobias to be able to go further. I see one in the middle there. Can we get a microphone over there, please? It's coming. Fantastic.
Hi, my name is Tomas. Amazing presentation. Just wanted to ask you, what's next on your roadmap? What are you guys working on?
Our mission at OffRamp is to create first-world financial solutions for people from emerging markets. So with OffRamp now, people can have like a pseudo like US financial app, but from the global south. People from Asia, from the Southeast Asia, Africa, or Latin America can have a US issued card, can have access to tokenized investments in ETF stocks and treasury bills, can deposit and send money anywhere in the world. So that's our mission, that's where we are going. And in terms of our roadmap, we are trying to make as easy as possible for people to deposit and withdraw money from anywhere in the world. So wherever you have money, you have funds, you should be able to deposit that in OffRamp, so you have like your global money, but with the local freedom.
What a nice question. Thank you. I have another question over there, please.
How you can overcome the challenges that you will face? How you can overcome the challenges you will face, or the consequences that you will face, for example, like as countries like as Iran, for example, if you have any users from there, so we have problem with America, so what will happen there?
At some point, we are a global product. We have users in more than 100 countries in the world. Our funds in OffRamp are fully on chain. It's a fully self-custodial product, so that allows us to be really global from scratch. But unfortunately, at some point, we are using like bank accounts or card issuers or these things that have their own like compliance and regulations, and each country has its own like peculiarities. So we aren't able actually to give our cards to users in some specific countries. Speaking about Latin America, for instance, that's the region I manage the most. Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua are some countries that solutions like Offram would be like really important, but unfortunately we can't offer our products there. So going to your questions, we will be always like fully compliant with the regulations, and our partners will be too. So we will need to be like moving forward and facing the challenges in the specific markets once they appear.
Thank you for the nice questions. Would anybody else love to learn something more on how we can make this whole stream more efficient? Or any other questions about Tobias? That is also definitely very welcome. Okay, well, what a fantastic conversation. I definitely learned something. And I definitely can probably keep learning about this hard problem. Give a round of applause for Tobias Frieder, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.